If you told me a year ago that the person who would destroy my life wouldn't be an enemy, or a stranger, or even the girl who secretly hated me, at my best friend of 10 years, I would have laughed in your face. But it's true. She didn't just steal my crush. She stole my dignity, my reputation, and the version of myself I used to trust. And this is exactly where it began. I used to think betrayal was dramatic, loud, obvious, impossible to ignore. But real betrayal doesn't show up screaming. It slips quietly into your life, wearing the familiar voice of someone you love and the comforting smile of someone you trust. That's how it happened to me. My name is Mira Collins. I'm 20, a sophomore at Eaglewood University, majoring in communications. Eaglewood likes to brand itself as a warm, connected campus community. But what that really means is nothing stays secret for more than 30 minutes. Before everything blew up, my life was simple. I went to class, worked afternoon shifts at the library, edited photos until late at night, and spent weekends wandering downtown with my film camera. I liked the quiet. I liked being invisible. And I truly believed I had the one thing most people struggle to find in college: a best friend who had my back no matter what. Her name is Avery Brooks. We've known each other since 10th grade. She's the type of girl who walks into a room and becomes the center of it without even trying. Loud, charismatic, effortlessly charming. I'm the opposite. I'm quieter, more observant, someone who feels safer behind the camera than in front of it. But somehow our personalities balanced each other, and I trusted her the way people trust seatbelts, without thinking, without doubting. Because of that, I never looked for red flags. I never asked myself if she felt the same loyalty toward me. I just assumed she did. Everything shifted the day Ethan Rivera transferred into my digital storytelling class. He was a junior in film and mediacom, observant, thoughtful in a way that made you lean in without realizing it. He had this quiet confidence, the kind that makes someone noticeable not because they're loud, but because they're paying attention. I don't fall for people easily, but with Ethan, it wasn't subtle. I felt something spark the moment he introduced himself. Avery noticed before I even processed it. One night, I was editing a close-up shot from our group project. Ethan was adjusting a camera tripod, the lighting soft on his face. Avery walked in, took one look, and burst out laughing. "Mirror, you're staring at him like you're photoshopping your future husband." I tried to deny it, but she stared at me with that annoying, knowing look. Within minutes, I was confessing everything: how Ethan lingered after class, how he asked me about my camera, how he smiled at jokes I didn't think were funny. Avery acted excited for me, cheering me on like the world's most enthusiastic hype woman. But now, looking back, the excitement in her eyes wasn't excitement. It was strategy. The next day, Avery decided I needed a complete aesthetic overhaul. She pulled up Pinterest and showed me boards like artsy film major vibe and soft academia, but photogenic. She made me try outfits from my closet, fix my hair, adjust my poses. I thought she was being a supportive friend. I didn't realize she was studying me, studying what worked on Ethan, what didn't, and what pieces of me she could later use for herself. And then came the texting lessons. One night, I was trying to send Ethan a simple message about our project, and Avery practically ripped my phone out of my hands. "Mirror, you cannot text him like you're writing an email to a professor," she typed with astonishing confidence. "Hey, I was reviewing our footage, and there's this one shot that keeps catching my eye. The lighting is unreal. If you're free later, I'd love to get your perspective." I stared at it. "Avery, nobody talks like this," she shrugged. "People who don't want to die single do." She made me practice different texting tones: artsy, subtly flirty, confident but warm. I thought she was helping me. I didn't know I was handing her the blueprint to Ethan's attention. Every small interaction I had with Ethan became a report I gave Avery. I told her everything: what he said, how he smiled, the little moments that made my heart jump. And every time, Avery would smile, nod, and encourage me. But there was something else behind her eyes, something sharp and unreadable that I brushed off. because I didn't want to believe anything bad about her. I didn't realize she wasn't cheering for me. She was gathering information. She was preparing her move. And if I had really paid attention, I might have seen the betrayal coming. But when someone is close enough, they don't need to hide the knife. You hand them the handle yourself. The part that haunts me the most about that entire week is how smoothly I walked into a trap that had been built right in front of me. Looking back now, I can see every red flag shining like neon signs. But at the time, I was so wrapped up in my feelings for Ethan and so blinded by trust in Avery that I never questioned anything. I genuinely thought she wanted the best for me. I didn't realize she was studying every move I made, collecting every detail, every insecurity, every heartbeat just so she could use it later. By week 6 of the semester, Avery became strangely insistent about me inviting Ethan to the weekend photo exhibition. "This is your moment," she said. "You need to make a move before someone else does." I spent almost an hour drafting the perfect message, carefully sculpted under her direction. I finally sent it at 8:13 p.m. Then I waited and kept waiting. Ethan didn't respond. Not a single word. Not a scene. Nothing. I told myself he was busy or asleep, or maybe he didn't have his phone on him. But deep down, something felt off. I pushed that feeling aside because hope is a stubborn thing. The next morning, Avery woke up early, way earlier than usual. She did her makeup, picked out a fitted cream top, layered it with her favorite leather jacket, and styled her hair like she was going on a date. When I asked where she was going, she muttered something about needing to stop by the studio real quick, then smiled in this weird, forced way I didn't recognize. I didn't question it. I was too busy checking my phone every 5 minutes to see if Ethan had replied. He hadn't. That afternoon, everything shattered in seconds. Someone from our department sent me an Instagram story. My stomach twisted even before I opened it. The photo was taken behind the media hall building. Avery was standing beside Ethan, arm looped through his, smiling like she had just won a prize. Ethan was looking down at her with a soft smile, relaxed, comfortable, like this wasn't something new, like this wasn't surprising at all. My heart dropped to the floor. Before I could blink, the story switched to the next one. Avery leaning and Anne kissing Ethan on the cheek. People in the background cheering them on. The caption had heart emojis. That was when my hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I called Avery. She ignored it. I called again. She declined. After several attempts, she finally sent one short, cruel message. "Don't overreact. Ethan and I have been talking for a while. I was going to tell you, for a while." My brain repeated those 2 words like they were bullets. Avery had been coaching me on how to text him. While texting him herself, Avery had been hyping me up about Ethan, while secretly building something behind my back. She had listened to every detail I shared and smiled like a friend, while using all of it for herself. When she came back to the dorm that night, she didn't look guilty. She didn't even try to act remorseful. She sat on her bed, took off her jacket, and looked at me with the calmest expression I had ever seen on her face. "Mirror," she said, like she was talking to a child who needed a lesson. "You're too passive. You like people in a daydreamy way." Ethan and I just clicked, like my feelings were an inconvenience she had to step over. I stared at her, waiting for something, maybe an apology, maybe an explanation, maybe any sign that she understood what she'd done. But Avery just shrugged, as if betraying your best friend was a normal part of a Saturday afternoon. But what hurt the most wasn't even the kiss. It was the realization that Avery had been competing with me long before I even knew I was in a competition. I didn't cry that night. I just sat there staring at the wall, feeling like something inside me had cracked. I wasn't angry yet, not devastated, just numb, completely, terrifyingly numb. And I thought that was the worst it would get. But I was wrong, because the next day the real betrayal began. It wasn't just that she took Ethan. It was that she took the narrative. She took control of the story before I even had a chance to speak. And once she opened her mouth, everything in my life began to burn. Walked into class the next morning feeling like my entire body was made of glass. I kept telling myself it would be fine, that maybe people hadn't seen the story, that maybe only a few film majors knew. I clung to that tiny bit of hope like it was the last piece of land in an ocean. But the second I stepped inside the lecture hall, the world told me the truth. Everyone knew, not in the subtle. Maybe they heard something kind of way. It was obvious too obvious. The whispering didn't even pretend to be quiet. People turned their heads, then quickly turned away like I was radioactive. A girl in the front row leaned toward her friend and said, loud enough for me to hear, "That's her, the one Avery was talking about. The obsessive one." Her friend giggled like it was entertainment. Creepy. Imagine thinking Ethan liked her. My throat tightened. I moved to the back of the room, scanning my phone, even though I didn't know what I was looking for. When I opened the department group chat, my heart dropped. Screenshots, memes, comments, and Avery's messages spread everywhere like poison. Yeah, I feel bad for her, but she kept imagining things. Ethan was just being friendly. She gets overly emotional. Please don't bring it up around her. I'm worried she might lash out. Emotional, imagining things. She wasn't just lying about me. She was rewriting who I was. My chest felt hollow. I wanted to scream, but the words wouldn't come. I tried to focus on the lecture, but all I could hear was buzzing whispers, giggles, the sound of my name being twisted into a joke. When class ended, I tried to slip out quickly, but Ethan was standing near the door. He looked uncomfortable, almost guilty, but not enough to say anything. I gathered every bit of courage I had left. "Ethan, do you believe what people are saying about me?" He didn't even fully turn toward me. He just sighed and said, "Avery told me you misunderstood a lot. I think you should focus on yourself right now." It felt like someone slammed a door in my face. Not physically, emotionally, completely. Ethan walked away without looking back, like I was a burden he didn't want to carry. I stood frozen, feeling like the air had been punched out of me. I wasn't heartbroken about losing him. I was heartbroken because he didn't even give me a chance to tell my side. He'd made up his mind, and Avery made sure he made it against me. The walk back to the dorm was torture. People stepped aside when they saw me coming, like I was contagious. Someone whispered unstable as I passed. Someone else said, "She's the one who made up the relationship with Ethan." My skin felt hot, my hands trembling. I didn't know where to look, how to breathe, how to exist without feeling like every pair of eyes held a judgment they didn't earn. When I finally reached my room, Avery was sitting on her bed scrolling through her phone with a matcha latte in hand, acting like she hadn't just detonated a nuclear bomb in my life. She looked up with a soft, fake expression. "Hey, are you okay? I heard people were being mean. Why did you do it?" My voice cracked even though I didn't want it to. Avery blinked innocently. "Do what?" "Telling people I'm obsessed, that I'm unstable, that I made it all up." Avery tilted her head like she was confused. "Mirror, I didn't lie. I told them the truth. You misread things. I'm not going to let you embarrass yourself more." So I had to explain. I was protecting you, protecting me. Gaslighting in its purest form. The terrifying part. She sounded like she believed her own lies. Or maybe she just didn't care enough to hide the manipulation. She stood up and gently placed her hand on my arm like she was comforting a wounded animal. "Mirror, you're very sensitive. You imagine meanings that aren't there. I didn't want anyone to judge you unfairly." Unfairly. The word hit me like a slap. She destroyed my reputation, and then acted like she was preventing damage. I didn't remember walking to my bed. I just knew that one moment I was standing, and the next I was sitting there, shaking, trying to process how someone could betray me so calmly. Everything felt unreal, like I was watching my life fall apart through a screen. Later that evening, more messages came in. Someone sent me another screenshot. "Avery again. I'm scared she might get angry. She's been acting weird. Just avoid her for now." Avoid her? I wasn't dangerous. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't imagining things. But Avery was painting that picture faster than I could fight it. By the next day, people I had never spoken to were avoiding me. Professors looked at me like I was fragile glass. A manager at the library pulled me aside and said a student had reported feeling uncomfortable around me, and maybe I should take a few days off to regain balance. Regain balance? A polite way of saying, Avery said something about you, and we believe her. That night, Avery posted a story of her and Ethan eating ramen, arms close, smiles bright, comments flooded and congratulating them on being an adorable new couple. She looked like she was living her dream life, and I looked like I was falling apart. I sat on my bed in the dark, scrolling, not even recognizing the girl reflected in my phone screen. How did my life get reduced to this? How did she twist everything so quickly? How did I let her? For the first time, I questioned my own memory, my own sanity, my own version of the story. But deep down, beneath all the noise and humiliation, I knew the truth. Avery wasn't just trying to win Ethan. She wanted to erase me, and she was doing it flawlessly. At some point, every story of falling apart reaches a moment when staying silent hurts more than speaking up. For me, that moment came late at night, in a dorm room that felt too small, too cold, too heavy with everything unsaid. I sat on my bed wrapped in a blanket, staring at the glow of my phone as notification after notification blinked across the screen, each one a reminder of how far Avery's lies had spread. Comments, screenshots, people analyzing my life like it was a TV show, people calling me unstable, obsessive, delusional, people who didn't know me at all speaking with such confidence about what they thought I was. It felt like drowning in a pool filled with other people's assumptions, and I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just losing control of the story, I had already lost it. The third day hit me differently. I tried hiding in the library, hoping the quiet would give me space to breathe. Instead, a girl I barely knew sat down next to me. She kept her voice low, glancing around like she was doing something illegal. "Mirror, are you okay?" she asked. I almost said I'm fine, but the words stuck. I wasn't fine. I hadn't been fine for days. She hesitated before adding, "Look, I don't know the full story, but everyone knows Avery likes attention. You shouldn't let what she says define you." Her words burrowed into me like a tiny thread of warm, thin, fragile, but real. It was the first time someone even hinted that maybe I wasn't the monster Avery painted me as. I wanted to cling to that moment forever. When I got back to the dorm that night, Avery walked in smelling like the perfume she wore only when she wanted to impress someone. Her eyeliner was smudged in a way that looked deliberate, not messy. She tossed her jacket onto the chair like she owned the room, and when her eyes met mine, she smiled sweetly, too sweetly. "Mirror, I heard you had a rough day," she said, voice dripping with fake sympathy. People can be so cruel. My chest tightened. I asked her quietly, "Avery, what do you want from me?" For the first time in days, she froze for half a second, just long enough for me to see a crack in her expression. She recovered quickly and laughed light, mocking. "I don't want anything. I'm just telling everyone the truth. You misread things. I'm trying to protect you, protect me." That was the moment something in me snapped, not loudly, but cleanly, like a thin wire finally breaking under too much strain. She didn't even care about hiding it anymore. She wasn't trying to defend herself. She wanted me to break. Avery walked closer, lowering her voice. "People worry about you, Mirror. You get emotional. You imagine things. I can't let this blow up." She said it so calmly that if I didn't know better, I would almost believe she meant well. But I did know better. I saw the satisfaction in her eyes, the control, the power, and I realized Avery wasn't afraid of what I might do. She was afraid I might speak. That night, I sat on my bed typing and deleting, until finally the anger in my chest turned into something sharper clarity. I opened our department group chat, the one where all the rumors had been spreading, and I wrote everything, not with insults, not with dramatics, just facts. I wrote about Avery coaching me through texts. I wrote about her encouraging me to message Ethan. I wrote about the timing, how she kissed him less than 24 hours after insisting I reach out to him. I explained that I wasn't imagining anything, and that the narrative being spread about me wasn't mine. It belonged to someone who benefited from silencing me. And I ended the message with, "I'm not asking anyone to take sides. I'm just telling my truth because someone else took it from me." The reaction was immediate. One person replied, "This actually makes way more sense." Another sent, "Avery being dramatic." "I'm shocked." "Not really." Someone else chimed in, "Honestly, Avery's version felt off." I stared at my screen, heart pounding, tears burning behind my eyes, not from pain, but from relief. For the first time in days, people were looking at me, not the image Avery crafted. Avery stayed silent in the chat for hours, and her silence spoke louder than any lie she had told. When she finally returned to the dorm, she slammed the door, her arms crossed tightly. She didn't look confident anymore. She didn't look victorious. She looked scared. "Mira, what the hell was that?" she snapped. "You're ruining my image." I stood up slowly, feeling something inside me that had been gone for days' strength. "No," I said, voice steady. "I'm taking back mine." She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. For the first time since this began, Avery had no script, no lines to deliver, no manipulation ready. She turned away and didn't speak for the rest of the night. The fallout didn't magically disappear. People didn't suddenly adore me. My reputation didn't fully recover. Trust doesn't regrow that quickly, but something shifted. People stopped avoiding me like I was a threat. A few apologized privately. A few offered support. And even though the damage Avery caused would take time to untangle, I no longer felt like I was drowning. I still think about what happened, not with bitterness, but with clarity. I learned that the deepest wounds don't come from enemies, they come from the people we hand our hearts to without hesitation. And the real question isn't why did she do it? The real question is why did I allow myself to believe someone who never earned that level of trust? But I'm done blaming myself. I survived it. I spoke up. I reclaimed my voice. And sometimes, surviving is the loudest victory you can have.